Hello, my name is Kelly Kelly. Welcome to the NICU Now audio support series. I am a NICU parent to Jackson, a micro-preemie born at 24 weeks, and Lauren, a late-term preemie born at 34 weeks. I am also the founder and executive director of Hand to Hold, a national nonprofit dedicated to providing education, resources, and peer-to-peer support to families that have experienced premature birth, the loss of a baby, or have a child with a special healthcare need. Welcome to Hand to Hold's NICU Now audio support series. I am so excited to welcome back Kara Wallen, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's also the mother of preemies, and she is the founder of NICU Healing. Welcome back, Kara.
Hi, Kelly. How's it going?
It's great, and I'm glad to have you here. Also joining us today is Jasmine LaCourciere, and she is here to talk to us about the Family Nurture Intervention Program. So we are so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do, and why is it important for NICU parents to know about Family Nurture Intervention?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I'm so excited to be here in Texas. It's very near and dear to my heart because I actually did my master's in applied cognition neuroscience at UT Dallas, and now I'm representing the Nurture Science program in New York City, which is a translational research program that investigates the biological underpinnings of mother-infant interaction. And we work to build an evidence base for family nurture intervention in the NICU. Family nurture intervention is intervention that we're currently researching, and we're going to be starting up a multi-site trial between 3 hospitals in New York City, Mount Sinai East, Mount Sinai West, and Columbia University, and we're bringing it to San Antonio's University Hospital.
Well, tell me, what does that mean when you talked about the underpinnings of infant-mother attachment? What does that mean?
So we are looking at the physiological mechanisms behind that mother-infant bond, and what's really meaningful to the Nurture Science program is that emotional connection piece of that socio-emotional development of the child. And so there's 2 parts of the Nurture Science program where we have the clinical side, where we're doing the interventions in the NICU, and we also have interventions with preschool-age children who have developmental behavioral problems. And we also have this other piece to the Nurture Science program that is an animal lab. And so we are able to look at those physiological pieces and pair them with the human side of the socio-emotional development and really build a strong evidence base for family nurture intervention.
Okay, so in layman's terms, what I hear you saying, hey, Kara, help me with this. What I hear you saying is that you are looking at what the bond of the mother and the child and the long-term impact on that child's social, emotional development long-term, as well as you're working in a lab with older children to look at their developmental outcomes as well, and what can we do. Right now, you're looking at what are we going to do in the NICU, because we know, Kara and I have talked about this at length, of that bond being broken when you don't automatically get to hold.
Yeah, the separation.
The separation. You're not holding, you're not feeding, you're not doing the normal things that you had expected to do.
Right.
And so what you're telling me is we're researching this now to find out how can we better help moms, I hope dads too.
Yeah. No, so family nurture. We want the whole family incorporated.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so what's really great is we're taking the scientific side. So a big portion of family nurture intervention is driven by this theory that we're working to get the mother and the child and the family emotionally connected to their baby, because that is ruptured, right? When you don't expect to go into preterm labor, you're put into this environment where you're, how do you navigate something like that when it's totally unexpected?
Yeah.
And it can be really devastating, and it can be very cold. And so we're working with these nurses and these doctors to really help them to understand what it means to emotionally connect with your baby, and how do you help them achieve that. And so we have this theory behind it, which is where that more scientific piece comes in, and looking at the physiology, so those biological underpinnings.
I have a question for you. I remember we had a neonatologist when Elliot was in the PICU. He's my former 26-weeker, and so he was in the hospital for about 88 days, and the last month of which was in the PICU. And at that point, I was really struggling with getting him to latch, to nurse. And I remember our neonatologist at the time told me that it's too bad you guys aren't in Sweden, because in Sweden you'd be in your own room, you'd be doing skin-to-skin 24/7, you'd be staying at the hospital, and they've had infants as early as 28 weeks latch for nursing because of that skin-to-skin contact. So I'm curious, is that the sorts of things that you guys are finding in the incredible work it sounds like you're doing?
Well, it's really interesting because I think it's more than that, more than just providing the opportunity to latch and to breastfeed and encouraging that. It's more in providing the emotional support. So teaching the nurses and teaching the staff to be there and emotionally support you, to be able to not only just go through the motions of certain interventions, but to experience it and to, emotionally express yourself and let those walls down. How do you do that in an environment where it's, and what's really great is with our intervention, we do kangaroo care, we do comfort touch. So if baby's not stable enough to come out of the isolette, putting the hands in
I really want you to talk to us some more. I want to come back to that for sure about the comfort touch.
Yes.
Because I want to make sure that our NICU moms that are listening, if no one's talked to them about that yet, that they really understand what is comfort touch, because so often we're scared to touch our babies. We're told very early on how fragile their skin is.
Oh, yeah.
They're hooked up to lots of machines and wires. So can you tell me a little bit, like, how can I provide comfort touch even to a really tiny, sick baby?
Yeah, so part of our intervention is that touch piece. And so we work, and we want the nursing staff to help with this, and that's part of the initiative of Family Nurture Intervention, is to engage the staff to help mothers feel empowered to take part in the care of their baby. And so the comfort touch is a containment hold. So putting the hand, an important piece is having the hand over the gut, the stomach, and providing that containment on the stomach, and also pulling the feet and having that nice midline positioning, and just having, it's like that feather touch where you stroke. It can be very overstimulating to babies, especially because, the average premature baby experiences 7 painful procedures a day. And so those small, fast movements can be overstimulating to the baby. So this comfort touch is a more sustained hold, and you're providing the warmth and allowing that baby to have sensory integration. So when you speak to the baby and you have the comfort touch, and the baby is now able to integrate your voice with that warmth, and not trying to piece together too many overstimulating things. So it's helping bring down the overstimulation and help that baby regulate. And so a big piece of family nurture intervention is co-regulation. So it's a big theory behind what we're doing, is that mom and baby are physiologically co-regulating with each other.
That means that we're syncing our heart rates and,
exactly.
and our breathing.
So
Is that
that's
what
something
we're talking about?
that's something that we're working on. Is part of what we're doing in our intervention is we have ECG, so we're recording the heart rate of mom and baby during holding sessions, so kangarooing or during comfort touch, and we're looking at how the heart rates are syncing up, and we're seeing it. And so it's really amazing. Yeah. So when baby's heart rate's going up, you actually see something that's really interesting. Sometimes mom's heart rate will go down, and you'll see that pull down baby's heart rate to a resting heart rate, which is really amazing to see the physiology you're co-regulating. So that's a big piece of what our interventions are striving to do.
I wanted to go back for a second.
Yeah.
I do think it's so important, the nurse's role in this, because we need to know how, if we're putting our hand on their gut and their heads, and we need to know how to do it correctly.
Exactly.
I was wondering, are you also working with neonatal therapists? Because I know they play a big role in helping us with knowing how to touch our babies and developmentally, physically. Those occupational physical therapists play those big roles for parents in teaching us to do those things. So are they involved in the program as well?
So right now what we're doing, and this is because we're we're doing randomized control trials. So what this means for our research is that we're randomly assigning babies in the NICU for the great level of standard of care that's provided, and we're putting some babies into the family nurture intervention, and then also comparing that great level of standard of care and seeing how that affects. So right now what we're doing with our research is employing nurture specialists specifically to work with the babies, but we're pursuing dissemination work that will go bedside. So right now we're in the first trial of our randomized control period, which is 1 year. And then we're planning to go into the second year and doing an effectiveness trial, which means that we're going to do it bedside. So all the bedside nurses in the collaborating hospitals the nurses at the bedside will receive a training on family nurture intervention. And so we're really excited about that because it has to work. It has to integrate with the hospital. So it might be different depending on what the hospital structure is or how the nurses work. And at some hospitals, you have the child life therapist performing calming interactions, or calming interactions isn't the right word. So we have, in some hospitals, you have child life specialists helping to calm the babies and doing calming procedures during painful procedures. And so because they're hands-on with the baby, they could be perfect individuals to learn family nurture intervention and to engage the parents. So it's really dependent on what structure is currently in the hospital and what will work best to not have to impose anything. It's to just help provide a training that will help the staff who are working with the parents to engage them.
So you talked about the comfort touch, and we've talked about kangarooing being part of that as well.
Yeah.
But I think there's several other initiatives as well. So can you talk to us about some of the other things that you're doing to help us bond with our baby?
Yeah, so family nurture intervention, which we like to call FNI for short. So FNI it has a lot of components. So there is scent cloth exchange, which I love. It's a little piece of fabric that mom will wear in her bra. And if she has a little milk on it, it's even better because the baby will get to smell it, right? And then behind the baby's head is a similar cloth. And so when mom comes into the unit, part of that will be exchanging those cloths. So mom gets to smell her baby and baby gets to smell mom. And it's really amazing. The baby's necks will turn and they love the smell of their mom and they know it. And research has shown.
About that.
They let me do that with Elliot at our hospital.
Good.
And I remember it was incredible the effect it had on my milk production too.
Right?
I mean, it was just kind of like, wow, this is really having a notable effect,
Right.
Just, I mean, it was not something that was minor.
So simple.
It's so simple.
So simple.
One story that Dr. Martha Welch, the director of the Nurture Science program, loves to tell is a mother who was having a lot of trouble sleeping, and it was really hard on her naturally. And so we did the scent cloth exchange with her, and when she would wake up in the middle of the night, she would take the scent cloth that was from her baby and smell it, and she would go right back to sleep. It was just that comfort.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the power of the scent. And what's really amazing about family nurture intervention and what I love about it so much is that it's taking all these different components, smell, touch, voice, eye contact, and it's combining them all. So they're all components that drive emotional connection, and we're providing all of those to help the mom and the baby emotionally connect.
Right. When you just said that, I was like flashback to one of the most difficult nights for me. I spent almost a week in the NICU because of my. I'm sorry, not the NICU. I personally spent almost a week in the hospital because of my emergency C-section. And one night, very late at night, my husband was in the NICU and I was alone and I just couldn't stop crying. And so a nurse came in to check on me, and I was having a really hard time expressing to her that I miss my baby. Yeah. And so she offered to take me to the NICU, and I was trying to explain to her that I missed him being inside of me. Like I just felt like, I'd almost been raped of my baby. It was a very sudden delivery and I wasn't prepared, and now I'm looking down and all I'm seeing is this horrible scar where my baby's supposed to be. So the thought of even what that would have meant to me to have that scent cloth. This was 16 years ago. Maybe some hospitals were practicing this, but probably not a lot. But maybe that would have been very comforting to me to have that piece of him with me. But I just love that it's so simple. That's something we can all do. And I think that, if parents talk to the doctors and staff and make sure that it's okay, there's nothing to say they have to be part of this program to start doing these things, right? If the doctor says it's appropriate and the nurse says it's safe, we want to make sure it's clean, right? It can't have something that has been exposed to cigarette smoke or perfumes or those sort of things, right?
And that's why we're working to engage the hospital. But a huge component is engaging these parents because they're a driver of, advocating for nurture in the NICU. And so this is a big thing. This is a big initiative of engaging the parents in the work that we do. And, all the pieces have to come together. The family has to come together. The intervention has to be there. And the doctors and the staff need to be excited about it. And that all comes from, right, you need the advocates. And so we're actually, interestingly enough, we're working to pull together advocacy boards to bring nurture to the NICU. So all of the hospitals that we're conducting research at is we're working to create a platform for the parents and creating a board, an advocacy board, which we're calling NICU Connect, because a big part is the emotional connection. And so we're working to engage those parents, community leaders, neonatologists, researchers. We want everyone on the team to provide a voice for nurture in the NICU.
Well, I certainly think once they see the results, and I want to get to that in a minute, that y'all are already seeing some really tremendous findings. But before I do, I don't want to forget, I want to go back. You briefly mentioned eye contact. So for our really medically fragile babies that maybe we're not holding yet, or even when we are, talk to me just about eye contact. What does that mean? Does that just mean gazing, that the baby is looking at me and I'm looking at him?
Well, so eye contact can get left out a lot. The baby naturally, at when they're very young, they're not going to be able to sustain eye contact, or the eyes won't be fully open. And as that comes in line, once the baby is able to maintain eye contact or look at mom, we really encourage mom to meet that gaze. And it's a huge issue with autism development, and those are key symptoms where eye contact isn't being sustained. And so and you see it when you're skin-to-skin holding your kangaroo care, or you have comfort touch or something that the baby's really responding to. And if you're skin-to-skin holding your baby and you're emotionally expressing yourself to your baby, the baby responds, and they look at you, and they'll look up, and you just see the baby trying to meet mom's gaze.
Sure.
And we want mom to notice that, and we want mom to engage in it, because that's a huge part of socio-emotional development, is being able to connect with your baby in that way, to visually hold contact, to
recognize your voice.
Exactly. And that's part of the recognition, right? Like when you speak to your baby, or when you speak to your husband and you call his name and he looks back, you meet gaze. And so if
sometimes, not always, I try.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me, I'm talking to you.
I know, right? We've got great eye contact going on over here. So it's just a big part of social emotional development, and being able to connect and empathize and relate to other people.
I'm imagining that there's probably, I don't know if you're measuring this stuff yet. I'm sure you will, but I'm imagining that it probably prevents a lot of non-desirable outcomes in mental health in terms of PTSD, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety for mom, as well, so that visceral connection, because it just, there's a lot of evidence that prevents trauma from creating those more negative memories. It's just that physical connection on a sensory level.
So in 2008, we conducted our first study at Columbia University on family nurture intervention in the NICU. And we did measures on mental health of mom, and we had lower rates of depression and anxiety, and it predicted the first year of life of the baby. So we were seeing these long-lasting effects of mental health in mom. Right. And we also saw, we did behavioral coding, so we have videos, and we look at it and how mom is interacting with baby and how baby's interacting with mom, and we saw like higher quality of maternal caregiving behaviors from the intervention. So the moms who received it.
So moms are engaging more in the care of the baby because of these interventions early on.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So there was eye contact. I believe we talked briefly about voice, right? So that's reading and singing. And
so it's not just, so voice is a huge component of establishing emotional connection, and it's a big way that we communicate and relate. And so we help moms to emotionally express themselves, like we were talking before about, if you want to talk about the trauma of having the premature birth or the complications or anything that you feel are holding you back from bonding and connecting with your baby, we want the nursing staff or whoever is taking on the family nurture intervention in the NICU to help support moms to express that.
And to the baby?
To the baby, yeah.
Really? So
and the family.
Share with him. Okay.
Yeah. So, and what's really amazing is that we see the babies respond to it. One thing, too, it's a great example. We had a mother who was holding skin to skin, and the baby was desatting. And Dr. Welch was like, talk to your baby. And the mom starts speaking, and she's speaking in English, and she kind of starts laughing. Well, the stats come up to about like 70-75%. And then mom kind of laughs, and she goes, well, that's not really, I like feel a little uncomfortable. It's not my native language. She's from the Ivory Coast. And so she starts speaking in French, and the baby's stats come up to about 80%.
Wow.
And she laughs again. She goes, well, really, I mean, the one that I'm most comfortable with, it's a pidgin language. And so she starts speaking her native tongue, and the baby stats rise again up into the 90s. And so you're seeing, like, the baby's physiology is responding to mom.
That's just incredible. I was going to ask you because I remember one time I held Elliot skin to skin, and he almost coded. Yeah. And it was just one of the most disconcerting moments of our entire NICU stay, and I didn't know what to do. They grabbed him out of my hands. They started doing all this stuff, and it was traumatizing. Absolutely. In that moment. And so I was going to ask how you would manage that, and that's just incredible to me. It's just almost almost emotional hearing it. Just it's beautiful.
Well, we talked about anticipatory grief earlier, of not feeling that automatic bond with our baby, and feeling a lot of guilt and shame of our bodies, what we perceive as our bodies failing, and I never thought about saying that to the baby, of sharing how I felt with the baby. Yeah. But now that it makes a lot of sense that if I could have expressed those emotions to him, what that might have done for me and potentially for him too.
Well, especially if you went through so much, both of you, and like to not if it's holding you back from your baby or I can't even imagine, how that felt. And if you feel like guilty or anything about how you said, my body failed, and how that impacts your time with your baby and being able to let that out and to help move past it and to break through those barriers. I mean...
It sounds like it'd be really empowering for parents, too, because I know for me, there's so much unpredictability involved in the entire situation. I would say for the entire first 18 months of Elliot's life, and my training as a therapist did not behoove me, but I was just waiting for the cerebral palsy diagnosis, the autism diagnosis. I was waiting. I was like, the other, things may seem fine now, but the other shoe is going to drop, and I just don't know when it's going to happen, so I'll just search for clues. And then I woke up one day and I realized, my attachment with Elliot is getting damaged by this. I need to, this is something I need to look at in myself. And so it sounds like the type of bonding that you guys are promoting with this program, it's just incredible because it takes that shame, the guilt, that stigma, that silence away from the family and creates this safe space to be able to grow even from an initial trauma together. I mean, I don't know. I really think it's incredible.
And I think it helps us develop a relationship with our medical staff too.
Exactly.
Which sometimes we don't know how to communicate with each other effectively. I know nurses have talked to me about, we have to repeat ourselves over and over and over, but we're in a place of trauma and we can't hear or process what they're saying to us.
Such a hard situation.
I think there's also some judgment of parents not being there, not participating, not being at bedside. But if nurses can teach us how, but if they can make us feel welcome, and if they can see the results of having us interact in this way, I just think it can be extremely powerful, but I also think it's going to really improve outcomes for the baby and the entire family.
Well, and I think too how not only is it just impacting you, which is that's the goal, like impacting the families, but it also, I just know from hearing the nursing staff that we work with, which we call them nurture specialists when they undergo the training, and like being able to share that relationship with the family and relate and provide that support when you're caring for that baby as well, I think that's huge in bringing together a staff that you see.
Absolutely.
So
I
much.
can't tell you how often. I remember so specifically when my son William passed away, there was a nurse that was his primary nurse at night. So we were there almost 24/7 for his entire 6 days alive. And so we got to know the night staff a little bit better who worked with with William. And anyway, this nurse, I don't know if she was new or she appeared to be young, but his death, I could see it in her face, how much it affected her as well. And I remember crossing paths with her maybe 2 months down the road when Elliot was still there. And she couldn't look me in the face. And I could tell she was carrying that grief with her too. And so there was this huge unspoken space in the room where there's that opportunity to be able to connect and also to create a containing space for her, because that's traumatic too, and they go through it on multiple occasions throughout the year. And that just goes to the loss, factor in terms of your actual job being to watch these tiny infants struggling for their lives day to day and watching families really struggle. Again, can I have a job?
We ask so much of our medical staff. I mean, they went into nursing to nurse the baby. And I think now there's just such an emphasis on family integrated care. And so now we need the medical staff to be more than nursing the baby, but caring for the entire family. So I just want to validate that we are asking a lot of them.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I also think
the work they do is
but I also think that for them to see how this improves the health of the baby and the parent, and to stay focused on long-term outcomes, because we're spending so much time and so much money in the health of these babies. You look at a 24-weeker, 16 years ago, our medical bills exceeded $1 million. Wow. So we want to send this baby home to a parent who is prepared to care for them, that they're bonded and they have that connection. And so we would just want to ensure that we do everything we can right now during this NICU stay. It seems very long, right? But in the grand scheme of things, 4 months of this baby's life, building this foundation, building this relationship and this bond that's going to last a lifetime between the parent and the child. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I just think it's phenomenal. I'm so glad to have it here in Texas. How exciting that is to have it in my home state. I hope it goes to every hospital. Oh. And I hope that the moms that are listening, the dads too, that are listening today can find ways that they can integrate this, that they talk to their nurses, their bedside nurses and their neonatologists. What can I do? How do I bond? Can I do scent cloth? And Kara mentioned something earlier about her nurse holding a mirror so she could see her baby as she was doing the kangaroo care. So, let's share these best practices and support our parents in bonding with our baby. But congratulations on the results so far.
Thank you.
Keep up the incredible work. Let us know how we can continue to educate parents and get the word out about your program, because I think Karen and I both agree we'd like to see this in hospitals across the country and make sure all parents are educated about these ways, this very critical way of bonding with their baby.
It's so exciting hearing about a program that clearly is hitting on all levels. It's just, I don't know, it's amazing.
It sounds so simple. I don't mean to downplay what you're doing, but I mean, really, we're kind of returning back.
Nurture.
It's nurture.
Yeah.
These are the basics. These are the things that,
they make such huge impacts down the road.
Yeah, I'm curious about what the outcomes look like with the babies. 5 years down the road, what are you guys seeing?
So actually, our kids are into their 5th year follow-up.
Okay.
So from our original study that was conducted in 2008, our babies are now 4 and 5 years. And we spoke about the mom's outcomes before with lower anxiety and depression, higher quality maternal caregiving. And then for those kids, they, at 4 months, actually, I'm going to back up. So the kiddos, we followed up until 5 years. And so we have something that's commonly given for neuro assessment is the Bailey.
Sure.
And so we did that at 18 months. And our kiddos who received the family nurture intervention, had higher cognitive and language development at 18 months. And then what's really amazing, because we were talking about this in eye contact, and we briefly touched on the autism, and there's a screener for autism called MCHAT. And so 1 in 8 babies are born premature in the U.S. And then from that pool, 1 in 4 babies who are born premature are screened positively on the MCHAT for autism. And with family nurture intervention, that statistic was reduced back to 1 in 10, which is just amazing.
That's just awesome.
Yeah.
And this is the FNI is only conducted while the families are in the NICU. So it's just that limited exposure to these types of practices. But I'm imagining, too, that the families are taking it home with them, some of the things that they've learned.
Well, and then with the limited time piece, we were seeing results with just six hours a week.
Wow.
And irrespective of how long the NICU stay was. So if the baby was in the unit for 2 weeks, having 6 hours of the intervention a week was really all it took. So we're seeing these huge changes with really little time, spent. And so we're really excited about it. And we're really hopeful for where it can go. And we love the support. And being here in Texas has been unbelievable. I mean, the overwhelming support of everyone. We have hospitals interested in Houston and Dallas, and
so cool.
And I can only imagine where it's going to go. So with your support and all the parents, we're just so excited.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please come back anytime and give us updates and keep us
so
posted
exciting hearing about it.
on the continued growth and success of this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
To request support, volunteer, or donate, please visit our website at handtohold.org.